in this project, I'm not in control, and I know I'm not in control. To come back to New Orleans, open up after Katrina, it's hard to do.
Some fish they're in, but now they're not in.
All I can think about is on opening day, what are we going to be serving? The storm's still here. We're all going to have to ride out a storm that just didn't come and go.
In New Orleans, the devastation has driven thousands to despair. But Vicki Bailey is trying to overcome it.
Unless you have a lot of patience and a lot of endurance, I don't think you'll make it in the city of New Orleans.
Vicki has opened 2 restaurants over the past 15 years. 6 months ago, she and 2 partners found a spot near the Mississippi for a new one. In a historic building at 7 on Fulton that was being turned into a hotel. They started working on it. Then came Katrina.
During the hurricane, we evacuated with our children. We stayed in Gainesville. We went to Miami. Rita came through Miami. We evacuated back to Gainesville. But we couldn't come home. There was no electricity, no sewer, and they didn't want you around there anyways.
Vicki couldn't turn her back on New Orleans.
It was faith that brought me back to New Orleans, and I just know that it's going to be okay.
The hotel wasn't damaged, but Vicki's partners dropped out. And after Katrina, a new business was too risky for her. Then, 2 months after the storm, mega mogul Roger Ogden, who owns the hotel, stepped in with the cash. Roger has $350 million tied up in commercial real estate in the city. He's even got his own museum. Roger needs New Orleans to recover.
She's a mysterious, veiled woman, as Mark Twain once defined her, that captures your heart and won't let go.
But it's up to Vicki to make it all work. She cut a profit-sharing deal with Roger, then found David English, New Orleans' 2005 Chef of the Year, who was out of work.
In my last job was kind of at that pinnacle where I think I was ready to really become the chef I was going to be. And so when the storm hit, it was right at the point where everything was right to happen, and it broke my heart.
Like so many other businesses, his former restaurant isn't reopening.
After the storm, we had kept on telling people, hang in there, we're going to open back up, come work for us. The company was paying everybody. They did an amazing job taking care of people financially. But once I got the final word, I think my initial reaction was like, I just lied to everybody.
7 on Fulton is part of a bigger picture. New Orleans is desperate to get the tourist dollar back. Without it, the city won't make it.
And one of the most important ways that we can do that is by opening new restaurants. We show we're alive in a very new fashion.
You know what? This city just needs hope, and it doesn't need hope one day. It's going to need hope, and it's going to need encouragement for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years.
Roger Ogden wants 7 on Fulton to be the first top-flight new restaurant to open in New Orleans after Katrina. He wants it open fast.
We're in carnival season now, and there's a huge symbolic message being sent by the city of New Orleans to the rest of the world that with Mardi Gras, we are open for business.
Roger's insisting that both the hotel and restaurant open at the same time. He's calling all the shots on the design. In just 25 days, this former banquet hall will be a fine dining establishment.
This is the logo.
Right.
And of course, these are the colors in the restaurant. Right. The chair, the color of the chair, the banquette, the back of the banquette.
There's only so much that can be done. Some carpet, some marble, some paint. Roger's insisting on these chairs in red.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not like, I don't want red chairs. It's okay, it's okay. You know, somehow those red chairs are gonna look great. So on the logo, can we go ahead with that?
Absolutely not.
It's funny because in this project, 7 on Fulton, I'm not in control. And I know I'm not in control.
David is going to have to make do as well. The kitchen hasn't been used in a year and a half. The equipment has been neglected. And even if it was in good shape, it isn't up to the task.
We certainly made a this is what I desire list, and this is what I absolutely need list. And we aren't even up to the this is what I need list.
Opening night is 3 weeks away.
It's going to be interesting to see who can stand the test of time and who can make it through. The ones that can, I think they'll be here in 10 years. The ones that can't, I don't think they'll be here in a year. Roger wants redfish on the menu. I can't wait to see if the redfish looks good with the red chairs.
In New Orleans, while the city is trying to get back on its feet, there's a rush on to open 7 on Fulton before the end of carnival season.
I'm not in control.
Hey, Gal. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Vicki Bailey and her team have less than 3 weeks. With that deadline, they're just going to have to make do.
We aren't even up to the this is what I need list. Doing well. I'd like to get a fried shrimp po' boy.
Sir, give me a shrimp po' boy with lettuce and onion.
Chef David wants to create a menu that captures all the fun and spirit of America's favorite party city. He'll draw on all of New Orleans' history: African, Creole, Cajun, French, and Spanish. But because of Hurricane Katrina, it's not going to be easy.
I think the biggest obstacle kitchen-wise is just getting what's available, getting the product in and the quality. I think oysters, for an example, there aren't as many people who are shucking them, or there aren't any people who are harvesting them. So the delivery people don't have as many, and the delivery people don't, staff's a huge issue right now. So the delivery people don't have enough staff to actually get them delivered.
New Orleans is desperate for labor, but there's hardly any place to live, and even less that's affordable in a town where a dishwasher may not even get $5 an hour.
Our housing was decimated here. I mean, huge parts of the city were absolutely wiped out.
I am looking for apartments for several employees who want to come back and work with David.
There's a restaurant that put 9 trailers, he bought them himself, camper RV trailers, on his property in order to house his staff.
Oh, $2,200 a month now. No, not on a cook's wages. Well, do you know of anything else?
The word that comes to mind that expresses everything in the restaurant industry right now is limited.
How much is that?
You have limited menu, limited resources, limited staff.
No, you don't think that's possible right now? Oh, it's gotta be.
Things are progressing in the front of the house, though not necessarily to Vicki's standards.
A useless door.
The kitchen has been cleaned up. David is working on his menu, but he's having to make compromises because some Louisiana classics aren't available.
It's very difficult to not be able to control a situation. There's a lot of anxiety and stress, and I think everybody involved is all feeling that, and so it's mounting. I'm hearing crawfish are almost, they're not very plentiful at all. The fish, it just kept on changing what might be, what might not be. Some fish they're in, but now they're not in. So we've shrunken things, we've simplified some things. Kind of a big thing with me is I want to execute it perfect.
All I can think about is, oh my God, on opening day, what are we gonna be serving?
This is truly what I want to do, and I want to do it at a really high level. Roger kind of had a, he gave me a little redfish suggestion, but.
Roger wants redfish on the menu?
That's what he said.
I can't wait to see if the redfish looks good with the red chairs.
Your favorite red chairs you're still talking about, huh?
I can't let go of it.
It should be really super asparagus-y. I don't know if you want to try it. I don't want to cut you. You want your hand?
Yeah.
In the past, Vicki's done well because of her chefs.
Oh, it is so good.
David's hoping she'll make his career.
A fear of mine and maybe other chefs is you spend all day long and to prepare this food and you're ready to do it and nobody walks in through the door. And so I think with Vicki, she has that connection to bring people in the door.
New Orleans is waiting to see this next chapter in Vicki's career. She's had as many setbacks, personal and professional, as triumphs.
This is my first restaurant, Mike's on the Avenue. It was incredibly successful, and I sold it at the height of its success. I found out that my second son, Joseph, was diagnosed with spina bifida. The doctors kept saying, you know, you're going to be in the hospital constantly with this child, and he's going to have special needs, and you can't imagine what it's going to be like. And so I just decided to sell.
Joseph is now 8 and has always needed extra care. Vicki and her family live an hour and a half north of New Orleans. After Joseph was born, she opened a restaurant closer to home called Artesia. But 5 years ago, that ended badly.
There was a controversy that took place, and the chef departed, and I think that restaurant pretty much went downhill right thereafter. And there was a question about whether Vicki precipitously, asked that chef to leave.
I lost so much money, and my friends were like, why would you do that?
A lot of us in the industry particularly feel like Vicki made a mistake in letting him go.
I look back on it and go, I don't know how I kept going. But I kept going long enough to where it sold. There's a lot at stake for me personally. And it's money, yeah. I mean, I have to, obviously, work my way back financially, but it's more than that. It's can I really do it?
Opening night is 5 days away.
Well, we seem to be leaking right now. The dishwasher quit.
We have no idea what's going on.
In New Orleans, Vicki Bailey is up against it, trying to open the first fine dining restaurant after Hurricane Katrina.
I am looking for apartments for several employees who want to come back and work with David.
At 7 on Fulton, Chef David English wants his menu to celebrate the history of his city. But because of the storm, Louisiana classics are in short supply.
Well, I'm hearing crawfish are almost, they're not very plentiful at all.
3 days before opening night, Carnival is in full swing. But inside 7 on Fulton, the mood is much less festive.
But you can't cook without a hood. What I can have is all the air coming down.
My day's going great. There's no glassware.
So, well, we seem to be leaking right now.
Where there's no chairs, there's no tables.
The dishwasher quit.
I'm hoping that the staff doesn't get burnt out.
We don't have enough space on the line.
So that's not good.
We probably have 4 or 5 ingredients that we can't find.
I mean, nothing's really ideal.
The cornmeal didn't even come. I don't even know what was said in the place of the cornmeal.
We don't want to look like we don't know what we're doing.
There's already enough stresses in the kitchen that you don't have to want to stress out about whether we have cornmeal or not.
Sometimes we look like we have no idea what's going on.
You gotta really work.
The stress is 24/7 for everyone.
Staying on my friend's floor. I got an air mattress sleeping on his living room floor. So we do what we gotta do.
I have 3 gentlemen that want to join us. They just don't have any place to move back to New Orleans yet.
I'm allowed at my house right now from 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock at night. But I'm not allowed to sleep there, which to me doesn't make any sense. Because if there's structural damage to the place they have to fix, why am I allowed in there at all?
It's only 36 hours until opening night. Most of the furniture will not be here on time.
The tables were ordered a long time ago, so I have no idea where the tabletops are, and I don't think anybody else does either. The artwork's sitting in Hawaii on the dock. It can't be shipped for another 7 days. These are the chairs that I've talked about and moaned about since the beginning, and they're here. The space doesn't look the way that I would want it to look. I don't think the space looks very good at all.
24 hours before opening. At this point, there's only one hope for 7 on Fulton: the food. Tonight, at a preview tasting, David's got to impress the big guy, who has a notion about his new restaurant.
I hope it'll be known as a damn good place to eat.
It's the first time Roger will have tried David's food.
If he doesn't like something, he'll definitely say he doesn't like it.
A restaurant is a business, and it takes a lot to get it up and going, and so those who are writing the checks, that is very important.
The meal begins with a salad of endive, watercress, dried figs, pears, and blue cheese. There's a New Orleans twist on a French classic. David shaped foie gras into bonbons, Southern fried them, and served them with red pepper jelly and plantains.
Wow. Special. Very special.
Next, David's adapted a street food classic, grilled Gulf shrimp with New Orleans barbecue sauce and fried grit sticks. Roger has to leave town, but needs to try the beef strip steak and short ribs. They're served with a potato puree, sautéed greens, and mushroom oxtail ravioli.
They were just wonderful. It was across the board a 10. That's amazing.
Opening night is 15 hours away.
There's no place to wash your hands.
Hang on, where's that redfish that just walked out?
In New Orleans, almost nothing seemed quite right the day before the opening of the first fine dining restaurant after Katrina.
I don't think the space looks very good at all.
The cornmeal didn't even come.
Short-staffed and without key ingredients, Chef David English has nevertheless created a menu that meets his key investors' approval.
Wow.
The kitchen has been in high gear since daybreak.
Mussels, oysters, crawfish.
It's getting a little easier to get supplies, but they're still lacking some basics.
The bread? No bread?
No, the cornmeal didn't come. They came, there's no freaking cornmeal, so we don't have bread.
Vicki Bailey knows full well this could be one of the toughest evenings of her career.
I think Vicki Bailey needs to rebuild her reputation and her name, if you will, in the local restaurant industry.
Oh my God. It's a big deal. I mean, did I really pick the right chef? You know, are people really gonna come? All right, there's toilets. There's no place to wash your hands. That's not gonna do. To come back to New Orleans after being gone for 5 years, open up after Katrina with the situation that's going on in New Orleans and be, you know, successful at it, it's hard to do.
The compromises at 7 on Fulton are part of the bigger story of New Orleans. 6 months ago, Vicki's former partners gave up on the project. But in the last 3 weeks, at a cost of $1.5 million, and in time for Mardi Gras, the first new fine dining restaurant to open after Katrina is ready to receive guests.
So right now you're working 2 endives. One went out, then you're doing 2 more.
Tonight, David is pulling out all the stops. To start, there's a frisee salad with fried egg, lentils, and braised pork belly.
I get a good wipe on this gumbo, please? I got pretty messy.
He's done a version of a Cajun classic, seafood gumbo with the crab claw and andouille sausage. There's a crispy skinned duck breast with honey glaze and duck confit dirty rice.
It's delicious. It's really good. I like it.
Roger's redfish makes it on the menu. Pan-seared and served with chorizo paella and saffron sauce.
Hang on, where's that redfish that just walked out? Come back, Come back with that redfish, please. You know, we're just kind of running around with our heads cut off in circles, and the heat lamp doesn't work, so plates aren't hot and food's not staying hot.
David and Vicki know that nothing is going to be quite right for a long time.
I need runners, please.
They also know there's a lot to celebrate tonight.
It's very good. It was fabulous. It was wonderful.
The front of the house is offered a mocha mousse pyramid and espresso cookies with a caramel sauce.
You know, I mean, if they maintain this consistency, this would be one of the best restaurants in New Orleans.
While behind the scenes, it's time for some bubbles.
Chef, you are our inspiration.
Find more at fineliving.com. Real information for real people.